Coffee, the new health food. I mean, oh yeah, we really got to do a show on that. Can we do a quick one on that?
Okay.
Okay. There's this thing that came out. I guess it was like around. Well, actually, I was doing shows on this when I was doing stand up. I don't call it stand up. I don't like the word. I don't like the word term stand up because you don't have sex. You're not getting laid. If you're a stand up comedian, you're not having sex. And if it is, it's probably really bad sex, actually. So
because they know you're going to do stand up about it.
Yeah, I would consider myself like a spoken word artist, not a stand up comedian. But I was doing shows on this shit about the coffee is the new health food they came out with, right? This happened around 2001, around the Bush time. And I said, because prior to that time, there was, there's normal medical skepticism about, people chugging cups of coffee all day long. It has deleterious effects on your health, for sure. But, Starbucks comes along, and this new coffee culture comes along, and it's the rehabilitation of coffee. Because there's a lot of money in it. Okay, so the story came out, coffee is the new health food, and a study by Vanderbilt University
Sounds reputable.
Vanderbilt University Institute of Coffee Studies. I shit you not. The Vanderbilt University Institute for Coffee Studies. Think about that for a while. That's like Jimmy's University's Institute for Big Macs telling you that, okay, so they came out with a study that says, oh yeah, coffee's the new health food, and there's all this language that they have to dance around, and they get some medical professionals that don't really want to put their careers on that one because it's kind of sketchy that it's, but they find one or two minor things that they can maybe look like it's good health and say, oh yes, this is the new health food, right? And then when you looked, I said, okay, Vanderbilt University Institute of Coffee Studies. Wait a second. Let's do a little research on that. Okay, so it wasn't that hard to do. We have Google to thank. And I said, well, go to Vanderbilt University. Yeah, there's a university called Vanderbilt University. Yeah, there really is. Yeah. Okay, and there is a Institute for Coffee Studies. Yeah.
That surprises me.
Yeah. No, there is. It's okay. It's real. It's real. And the university is real. It's actually an accredited university.
Yeah, Vanderbilt, I've heard of that.
Yeah, okay. And then you say, well, who would be financing the Vanderbilt Institute for Coffee Studies? And you looked at a couple of corporations, and it was the holding corporation for Starbucks.
That's so surprising.
Isn't that shocking?
That's really surprising.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it's really shocking that if you pay a bunch of academics who are starving to produce a study, that they might actually produce the study that you want.
It's shocking to me.
Especially if you're going to build big buildings at universities dedicated to coffee studies.
Who knew academics had such loose morals?
So, Jimmy's University of Big Mac Studies, okay? So, yeah, Jimmy studied Big Macs, and he says it's a good thing. And this is not far off from the truth because, I had to grow up watching American television, and we had growing up only ABC, CBS, NBC, and then you had PBS over there. So you had the three networks. That's what we had. There was no cable, right? Okay, so growing up, we had this, and every single network had their own resident doctor, right? And ABC had this idiot called the resident ABC News, the ABC Network doctor. And he was the guy in 1980s, came on air and said, and this is how he said it, a Big Mac is a good thing. A good greasy Big Mac burger is a good thing, And then, ABC is running commercials for McDonald's, right? Okay, ABC News, their resident doctor said that a greasy Big Mac is a good thing for health. So, it's insane. It's
no different than Dr. Oz coming on Oprah and being like, wear magnets for cancer.
Oh, I don't know much about Dr. Oz.
I don't either, but
Yeah.
I mean,
He seems to,
he's awfully smiley, and I don't trust him.
Yeah, no. And there's another doctor. Who's that other doctor who's supposed to be one of these guys? What's his name? Dr. Phil? Dr. Phil?
Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil is more like people in families yelling at each other.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But Dr. Phil, he interviewed this woman who had gouged her own eyes out. You know about this.
the one because she felt like she wanted
to
to
be
be blind.
So she put lye acid in her eyes and made herself blind. Okay. And he had an interview with her, right? And not one time did Dr. Phil think to ask, why did you do it?
Yeah.
Not one time. And not one time did he ever think to ask, was there something in your childhood where you saw somebody who was blind and that because that would be too judgmental to ask the basic question that would be on every.
Why did you do this?
Why did
really
you do that?
Stupid thing.
Yeah, really stupid. So because you are so averse to being judgmental, and I don't even see how asking a question is judgmental now. But it is now. If you
especially if your whole job is like to interview people, asking a question is judgmental.
You need to actually ask.
You have to actually like interview people.
It's unbelievable. So he didn't think to ask was there something in your childhood perhaps where you saw and then this caused because it obviously was not something that you're not born with this idea that you got to get rid of your eyes. Something happened, and I know how I can see how this could work. For example, a woman, there's people who want to get rid of their legs, for example, and they put buckets of ice, they freeze their legs off, the legs get gangrene, and because they ask, please remove my legs. And there are actually, there's plenty of doctors that will just like cut your legs off if you pay them to, But there are actually some doctors that might like for their own
balk at that kind of thing,
because it doesn't look good.
No,
they would do it for the money, I'm sure, but it's just not going to look good.
They just don't want their names on the paper.
No. So what these people do is they put buckets of ice, they freeze their legs to get gangrene, and they say, now you have to remove the leg because it's dead. You don't have a choice. Okay. So now that's not something innate that you're born with. That is something you saw when you were very young, somebody who was incapacitated like that. You felt some kind of empathetic moment there with that person. That's what caused this. Happened. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's not a thing that you're born with, for sure.
No, I mean, I even think that young people, like, I think in the developmental stages of somebody, like, for example, I remember, I think that, I remember we all grew up with the Helen Keller story, okay? Mm-hmm. And I can see how the mind of a young child can like identify with the kind of experience that someone like a Helen Keller is confronted with, and it could cause in their own imaginations an empathy and sometime sort of like a role playing thing. It can happen. It could happen, and it could easily happen. Actually, I could see how that could happen, where you could like sort of in a way fantasize what it would be like to be someone like in her position.
Yeah, but fantasizing and actually gouging your eyes.
No. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that's okay. So that's when it reaches the pathology of the thing.
I mean, it's the difference between putting a blindfold on and pouring...
Okay. So, but you understand what I'm saying, that the human mind has great range of imagination and empathy, for sure. Especially young minds can do this, but they're not really developed yet. Okay, so you could fantasize, because I can remember being a young person hearing the Helen Keller story, sort of like putting myself in her, I don't know if you underwent this, but I did undergo some sort of like, I don't know, some empathetic moments there with that story in particular. The Helen Keller.
We all do.
It's a powerful story for a young person to deal with, to comprehend.
How do you even interact with the world?
That's correct. And and it causes such thought in a mind of any person, especially a child or an adult. It's a very, very, very deep issue to ponder. Someone who is cut off from the world like this, in this way, and so it's pretty easy to see how sometimes these things can sort of percolate, or percolate in someone's sort of psyche, and maybe not get flushed out, not get thoroughly brought out into a healthy direction, and somebody could sort of like develop an unhealthy, say, fetishization of the kind of thing that inflicted, say, Helen Keller, for example. It's easy to understand how people can fetishize in the unfortunate circumstances of someone who's like sort of like handicapped, or someone who's cut off. You put yourself in their mind for a moment, and then some people are able to do that for a moment, but some people
they just never come back.
Some people, maybe spend a little too much time there, and then a very, very small, minute portions never come out of that, and they develop it's a fantasy world about that they say, this is my natural. They think it's their natural race. I don't want my eyes.
They like it better than where they're coming from.
That they like their fantasy world. It's more comforting to them. Yeah. Now, Dr. Phil will never tell you any of this. Yeah, he'll never actually get to the crux
goes to
of
show
the matter.
You how much IQ tests me.
No, he's a TV. The bottom line is that it's not hard to figure this kind of stuff out if you put your mind to it, like we just did here. And we're pretty sloshed. We've had a few drinks. It's not like we're at our top performance, and we can articulate.
More importantly, we don't bill our services as psychiatrists to the rich and famous.
Yeah, but that was a good exploration of this.
Yeah, I think we got to the bottom of it. I mean, that seems to me to be where this whole impulse is coming from.
Sure, I mean, it's the same thing. Like I told you about my my brush with cross-dressing as an 8-year-old. Did I tell you that? The reason why I say it is because it's much in the same way of this imagination, this fetishization, and what occurs in the imagination of a young person. So I'll just cut to the chase of it. When I was like around 8 years old, I went up into the attic in my house. I found a crate of clothing. I opened it up. There was a bunch of silken women's underwears. I promptly put them on, got a huge erection, as huge as it could be for an 8-year-old, right? I got a stiffy there, and it felt great. The silky, satiny feeling, because prior to that time, I had jockey shorts, which were like these like elastic, hard, like elastic. It's nothing nice. But when suddenly you have like silky, velvety things going against you, your erogenous zones, for an 8-year-old, this was like the best. Okay, so I didn't spend a lot of time in the attic. I only went up there like 4,000 or 5,000 times. No, 4 or 5 times, or not even. I think it was probably only 4 or 5 times, whatever. But it was at the time when I was like exploring my own sexuality. But you know what it was? No, I wasn't. It didn't mean that I was gay. I was experimenting with tactile sensations that I'd never experimented with before. I don't have this instinct to wear women's clothing anymore. I did it like
says the man in the lace shirt.
Oh, because you know what it is. I had rock and roll band, and when you have a rock and roll band, listen.
Any fashion-forward male knows that men's clothes suck. He's just being
men's clothes
smart.
are the dumbest shit in the world. And like David Bowie and Mick Jagger never go to the men's section to buy clothes. I go right to the women's section. I actually go to the junior teen section immediately, and that's where you find the good stuff.
That's where you find the good stuff.